The air in the hospital room was thick with silence, broken only by the soft beeping of machines and the shallow breaths of the man lying in the bed. His skin had grown pale, his once commanding voice reduced to a frail whisper. Around him stood his two children, Daniel, the firstborn son in his tailored suit, and Clara, the younger daughter, her eyes swollen from tears, clutching her father's hand, as if holding on would keep him here longer. Their father, Victor Grant, was no ordinary man. A self-made billionaire, he built an empire of steel and glass, owning banks, oil companies, and sprawling estates across continents. For years, the world speculated about what would happen when he finally departed. Who would inherit the crown of his empire? Would the fortune be shared, or would one child claim it all? As the lawyer read the will, Daniel leaned back, his face stoic, almost expectant. Clara, meanwhile, could barely focus through the haze of grief. The word struck like lightning. Daniel would inherit everything. $500 million, shares in the company, mansions, jets, yachts. Clara, she was left with only one object, an old battered phone. The room froze. Daniel smirked faintly, unable to hide his satisfaction, while Clara sat in stunned silence, her fingers trembling as she accepted the cracked device. Is this a joke? Daniel scoffed. $500 million to me, and she gets that? But the lawyer simply closed the file, his expression unreadable. This was Mr. Grant's final wish. Later that night, alone in her small apartment, Clara sat at the edge of her bed staring at the phone. It looked ancient, the kind of flip phone people had discarded decades ago. The plastic was scratched, the buttons faded. Why would her father leave her this? Did he think so little of her? Tears welled in her eyes, but something in her heart told her to press the power button. At first, nothing happened. Then, with a faint buzz, the screen flickered to life. One message appeared. Just one. From her father. It read, "Asterisk. If you are reading this, Clara, it means I am gone. What you hold in your hand is worth more than all the money I left behind. Trust no one, not even your brother. Follow the map. It will lead you to the truth about me and about yourself." Asterisk. Clara's breath caught. A map? She scrolled down and found a file labeled coordinates. With shaking hand, she tapped it, and the phone displayed a set of GPS points. They led to a location deep in the mountains, hundreds of miles away. Her mind raced. What truth could possibly be hidden out there? Why only her? Meanwhile, Daniel was busy celebrating, already drowning himself in champagne and congratulatory handshakes from business partners. But in the back of his mind, a nagging thought lingered. Why would their father, a man who calculated every detail of his life, leave Clara anything at all? That old phone. Clara packed a small bag the next morning, determination burning in her chest. She didn't care about the fortune. She needed to know what her father meant. She needed answers. But as she boarded the bus toward the mountains, she failed to notice a black car trailing in the distance. Inside, Daniel sat with a cold glare, his driver gripping the wheel. He wasn't going to let his sister uncover whatever secret their father had hidden. The road ahead was filled with danger, betrayal, and revelations that would shake Clara's world to the core. Because the old phone wasn't just a relic. It was the key to something far greater than money. Something people would kill for. The bus rattled down the highway, its worn-out suspension making every bump feel like an aftershock. Clara sat by the window, her eyes locked on the endless blur of trees and fields outside. The old phone was heavy in her pocket, almost as if it carried more weight than its size allowed. She touched it often, as if to reassure herself it was still there, that her father's cryptic message hadn't been some grief-fueled hallucination. She replayed his words in her mind again and again. Asterisk, worth more than all the money I left behind. Asterisk, how could anything be more valuable than $500 million? Daniel might laugh it off as sentimental nonsense, but Clara knew her father. He was a man who planned every move with precision, who spoke little but meant everything he said. If he had chosen her to hold this secret, then there was a reason. The bus stopped briefly in a small town, and Clara stepped off to grab a bottle of water and a sandwich. As she returned, she noticed something unsettling. A sleek black car parked at the far end of the lot, its windows tinted dark. She felt a prickle at the back of her neck. For a moment, she thought she saw a figure shift inside, watching her. Her heart skipped, but the driver honked impatiently, and she hurried back onto the bus. Hours later, as the bus wound into the mountains, the air grew thinner, crisper, scented with pine and earth. The coordinates on the phone indicated a remote area, a place she had never heard of. With every mile deeper into the wilderness, her anxiety grew, but so did her determination. She had to know what her father wanted her to find. When she finally disembarked at the last stop, dusk had already fallen. The tiny mountain town looked almost deserted. A scattering of cabins, a gas station, and a diner glowing faintly under a buzzing neon sign. Clara asked the station attendant if there was a way to get closer to the coordinates. The man squinted at the screen and frowned. "You don't want to go there," he muttered, his weathered hands trembling slightly as he handed the phone back. "That's old mining territory. Dangerous. Been abandoned for decades. People who go poking around there don't come back." Clara forced a polite smile, though her stomach churned. "I'll take my chances. Is there someone who can take me up the trail?" The man hesitated, then scribbled a number on a piece of paper. "Ask for Henry. He's crazy enough to drive you up that way. But be careful, miss." She thanked him and walked toward the diner, where she could call from the payphone. Inside, the smell of fried onions and coffee filled the air. A few locals sat hunched over their meals, glancing up at her with mild curiosity. Clara ignored their stares and dialed a number. A gruff voice answered. "Henry." She explained what she needed, and after a long pause, Henry agreed. "Meet me at the gas station at dawn. Cash only. And bring good boots. You'll need 'em." Clara spent the night in the town's only inn, a creaky wooden place with paper-thin walls. She barely slept. Every time she drifted off, she dreamed of her father's face, sometimes smiling, sometimes warning her. At one point, she thought she heard footsteps outside her room, the faint creak of the floorboards, but when she checked, the hallway was empty. At dawn, Henry was waiting. He was a rugged man in his 50s with a thick beard and eyes that had seen too much. His truck was battered, caked with mud. Clara climbed in, clutching her bag and the phone tightly. The road turned into a dirt path, then into nothing more than rocks and roots. Henry drove in silence, the truck bouncing violently. Finally, he stopped near a broken fence where an old warning sign still clung to a rusted post, * danger, mine closed. Trespassers will be prosecuted, *. This is as far as I go, Henry said. Trail's up that way, about a 2-hour hike. Sun sets fast in these parts, so don't get caught out here at night. Whatever you're looking for, find it quick. Clara thanked him and started up the trail, the forest closing in around her. The air was unnervingly still, as though the mountain itself were holding its breath. The coordinates blinked on the screen, guiding her deeper and deeper into the wilderness. She had been walking for nearly an hour when she heard it, the crunch of footsteps behind her. She froze, her breath caught in her throat. Slowly she turned, but the trail was empty. Only trees, shadows, and silence. She kept walking, faster now, her pulse racing. She knew she wasn't alone. Finally, she reached a clearing where the coordinates ended. In the center stood a weathered wooden shack, half collapsed, covered in moss and vines. Clara's chest tightened. This was it. She pushed open the creaking door, dust swirling in the beam of light from her phone. Inside, the shack was nearly empty, except for an old chest in the corner. Its iron lock was rusted but weak. Clara knelt, pried it open with a rock, and gasped. Inside were stacks of journals, photographs, and files. She picked up the top one, her father's handwriting instantly recognizable. Flipping to the pages, her eyes widened in disbelief. They contained detailed records, names, transactions, secret accounts, coded letters. Her father had been hiding something massive, something dangerous. The last page contained a message, written just for her. * Clara, if you are reading this, you must understand, everything Daniel inherited is built on lies and blood. The empire I created is corrupt. I cannot destroy it in life, but I trust you to finish what I could not. This phone contains the access codes to accounts that will expose everything. But be warned, others will kill to keep these secrets buried. Even Daniel. Asterisk. Her hands trembled as she clutched the journal. The sound of a twig snapping outside made her flinch. She spun toward the doorway, heart hammering. A shadow moved. "Clara," came a voice, smooth and chillingly familiar. Daniel stepped into the shack, his suit traded for a dark jacket, his expression hard. His eyes flicked to the open chest, then back to her. "I knew it," he said softly, almost admiringly. "Father always did favor you. But you don't understand, Clara. That phone, those files, they don't belong to you. They belong to me." Clara's breath quickened. He trusted me with them. He wanted me to know the truth. Daniel smirked. The truth? The truth would burn everything. Do you think the world will thank you for tearing down our father's empire? Or will they devour you alive for it? He stepped closer, his eyes glinting. "Give me the phone, Clara. Walk away now, and I might let you live your quiet little life. Refuse, and you'll regret it." Clara's grip tightened around the phone, her father's final words echoing in her mind. "Trust no one, not even your brother." Her pulse roared in her ears as Daniel advanced, the tension crackling like a storm about to break. Clara's chest rose and fell with sharp, uneven breaths as Daniel's shadow stretched across the decaying shack. The air was heavy with dust and old secrets, and the silence pressed against her ears like a scream that refused to escape. Her father's words pounded in her head, louder than her heartbeat. "Trust no one, not even your brother." Daniel's eyes gleamed with a cruel hunger, the kind of hunger that no fortune could satisfy. He reached a hand toward her. "The phone, Clara," he murmured, voice low but edged with steel. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." She stepped back, clutching the phone so tightly that the cracked plastic dug into her palm. "No, Daniel. Father didn't trust you. He knew what you are. That's why he gave it to me." His smirk twisted into a sneer. "Father gave you scraps because you were weak. You never had the stomach for power. But me?" He tapped his chest. "I'm the one who carried his legacy. I'm the one who deserves the empire." Her voice broke, but her resolve didn't. "No, Daniel. You're the reason he built this lie to protect the world from you, to protect me from you." Daniel's jaw tightened, and in that instant, Clara saw it. The mask slipping, the boy she once called brother replaced by something darker, colder. He lunged. Clara darted sideways, slamming the chest lid shut with all her strength. Paper scattered, fluttering like panicked birds. She sprinted for the doorway, but Daniel was fast. Too fast. He caught her wrist, twisting it until she nearly cried out. The phone slipped, clattering to the wooden floor. For a terrifying heartbeat, they both stared at it. Then Daniel shoved her aside, reaching down. Clara's mind raced. She had seconds, maybe less. Her eyes darted to a broken beam leaning in the corner. Summoning every ounce of strength, she grabbed it and swung with desperation. The wood cracked against Daniel's shoulder, knocking him off balance. He snarled, his grip loosening just long enough for Clara to snatch the phone and dash into the forest. The trees swallowed her whole, branches clawing at her arms and face as she stumbled down the trail. Behind her, Daniel crashed through the undergrowth like a predator. "Clara!" he roared, his voice reverberating through the woods. "You can't outrun me. You're nothing without me." Her lungs burned, but she pushed harder, guided by the dim glow of the phone screen. The coordinates had shifted, leading her deeper still, as though her father anticipated this chase, as though he had planned every step. Finally, the path opened into another clearing, this one dominated by the gaping black mouth of an abandoned mine. She hesitated, staring into the darkness. It felt like a tomb. But then Daniel's footsteps thundered closer, and she plunged inside. The mine reeked of damp stone and rust. Water dripped steadily somewhere in the shadows. Clara's flashlight flickered weakly as she navigated the tunnels, her hands trembling. The phone buzzed suddenly, startling her. A notification appeared. Password required. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Asterisk. This phone contains the access codes to accounts that will expose everything. Clara's fingers shook as she typed her birthday. Denied. Her mother's name. Denied. Finally, she typed the word her father had always whispered when tucking her in as a child. Hope. The screen unlocked. Lines of encrypted files appeared, followed by a single document titled Asterisk, the beginning of the end. Clara tapped it, and an avalanche of secrets unfolded. Bank transactions laundering billions, names of politicians bribed, contracts for violence disguised as business deals. It was the blueprint of corruption itself, a map that could bring the empire crashing down. Her tears blurred the screen. This was what her father meant. Not money, not power, but truth. The kind of truth that could change everything. Found you? Daniel's voice slithered through the tunnel like venom. Clara spun, her flashlight beam catching his figure as he advanced slowly, deliberately, like a wolf cornering its prey. His jacket was torn, his face scratched in the chase, but his eyes burned with unyielding fury. "You don't get it, Clara," he growled. "If you release that information, you'll destroy not just me, but thousands of lives tied to the Empire. The world will eat you alive for exposing it. Father wanted control, not chaos." Clara held the phone against her chest, her voice steady despite the fear shaking her bones. "No, Daniel. Father wanted redemption. He couldn't carry the weight anymore. That's why he left it to me. Not you." His lips curled back. "Then you'll die with it." He lunged, but Clara ducked. The phone clutched tight. They grappled in the darkness, the sound of their struggle echoing through the cavern. Daniel's strength was brutal, every strike filled with rage, but Clara's desperation gave her an edge. She shoved him backward, and he stumbled near the edge of a hidden shaft, loose rocks crumbling under his feet. For a breathless moment, their eyes met. Clara saw something flicker there, not remorse, not love, but recognition. He realized she was no longer the timid sister he thought he could control. She was her father's daughter, and she would not break. "Daniel, stop," she cried. "It doesn't have to end like this." But he sneered, reaching for her one last time. The ground beneath him gave way. With a roar of rage, Daniel plunged into the abyss, his scream swallowed by the endless dark. The echo faded, leaving only silence. Clara collapsed, her chest heaving, tears streaking her face. She had lost her brother, but in truth, she knew she had lost him long before this night. With trembling hands, she opened the document again, the weight of her father's final wish pressed against her heart. The decision was hers now. She could bury it, protect herself, live quietly in anonymity, or she could unleash it, expose the Empire, and let the world see the monster her father had become, and the son who had been willing to kill to preserve it. She walked out of the mine as dawn broke over the mountains, the sky painted in shades of fire and gold. The phone felt warm in her hand, not heavy anymore, but alive, pulsing with purpose. Her father's voice seemed to whisper in the rustling of the trees. Asterisk, trust yourself, Clara. The truth is yours to carry. Asterisk, back in the city. Clara sat in her small apartment, the phone connected to her laptop. She stared at the screen, at the blinking cursor, waiting for her command. She thought of the lives ruined by her father's empire, the blood spilled in silence, the people who had suffered while Daniel prepared to inherit it all. She thought of her father's eyes in those final moments, not the ruthless billionaire, but a man begging his daughter to finish what he could not. Her fingers hovered, then pressed send. Files shot across encrypted servers, to journalists, to law enforcement, to watchdog groups. The truth erupted like wildfire, unstoppable, uncontainable. The Grant Empire crumbled overnight. News headlines screamed of betrayal and corruption. The mighty name dragged into the dirt. Clara watched it unfold not with triumph, but with quiet sorrow. Her father's legacy was gone, her brother lost, her own life forever changed. But deep inside, she felt something she had never felt before: freedom. Weeks later, as she walked through the city streets, strangers passed her unaware of who she was. She carried no fortune, no empire, only the weight of a truth that had set the world ablaze. And though the journey had cost her everything she once knew, Clara understood now why her father had chosen her. Because money fades, power corrupts, but the courage to face the truth, no matter the cost, That is worth more than $500 million. And as the wind swept through the streets, carrying whispers of change, Clara held the old phone close to her heart, knowing it was never just a relic. It was her inheritance, her burden, and her gift. Her story was not one of riches, but of redemption. And though the world might never know her name, they would forever live in the shadow of the truth she had unleashed.